Hi, everyone. Apologize for the delay with this webinar. Welcome. We are here together to talk about the UBC Master of Data Science program and whether it's right for you. Before we get started, maybe I'll some housekeeping things that I wanted to mention. So we are going to be together for about an hour and a half. The three of us will talk for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. That's our presentation. And then we will have about half an hour to 45 minutes for questions and answers. So again, we have a lot of people from all over the world, so welcome. And let me just introduce myself. My name is Milad Maymay. I'm the Program Operations and Student Management Director for the Master of Data Science program. And we also have to my left, Gustafson.
Good morning, welcome. I'm Paul, professor in the statistics department and co-director of MDS. And Giuseppe.
Hi everyone, I'm Giuseppe and I'm a faculty member in computer science and this other co-director of the MDS.
So as for the agenda, we will start with introducing the program and letting you know what makes the program unique. We'll talk about the curriculum. We'll talk about the potential career avenues and opportunities you will have after you graduate. We'll also talk about the application process and give you some tips. We'll talk about financial aid options, and then we'll talk about some next steps, and obviously at the end we'll have lots of time for questions and answers.
Okay, so let me start introducing the program. So this is a very kind of brand new program that was developed in consultation with industry starting in 2015. So we consulted with industries from many different sectors at healthcare, energy, information technology, transportation, and they all recognize that there is a huge demand. They have a need for more data scientists, people that can process, analyze, and better understand all the data that they are collecting. And this data is constantly growing in size. The program was approved very quickly by the BC government, which also indicates that the government and the public sector is recognizing this huge future demand for data scientists. And we were able to start the first cohort in September 2016. So with 22 students that were selected from a much larger pool of students, and they have a very diverse background in arts, science, engineering, business, and finance. And this diversity is a strength of the program because it reflects also the diversity and the interdisciplinary of data science. And we also have diversity in work experience, which ranges from just a co-op to 15 years of experience in the workforce, and this diversity is again a strength because our students, they can learn from each other through collaboration.
Okay, so let me speak a little bit to the unique features of the program. So I think we do have excellent breadth. So our students are taking 24 one-credit courses across a broad range of topics that we'll come to on the next slide. Just to give you some idea of how that looks and feels, our students would be taking 4 of these one-credit courses simultaneously over a block of 4 to 5 weeks. And it's a fairly intense and accelerated program, and so students are coming in September and are all done by June, so just the 10 months, which I think is a useful feature for many applicants. It is viewed as a professional program. It's not viewed as a research program. So there's really a focus on practical experience and becoming a very responsible and innovative user of data science tools. And to go along with that, there's use of real-world data sets throughout the courses. Again, we'll come to this more on the next slide, but really there's a blend. About a third of the curriculum is drawn from applied statistics, another third relatively core computer science, and then there's sort of a third that's unique and in the middle, in a sense, that's the real data sciencey part of it that I'll come to, or we will come to on the next slide. So the program has, we're working quite hard to forge connections with employers and with industry. Maybe the most overt connection is through a capstone project. So after these 24 modules, then students are doing a capstone through the months of May and June. But also through the year, there are information sessions, career fairs, tech talks and guest lectures from people from industry. So there's a lot of that kind of activity. There's also some specific career preparation activities, some workshops specific to data science and to MDS students to help think about preparation for the workforce. And as Giuseppe hinted at a moment ago, we're really thinking about data science in a very broad, interdisciplinary way. So we hope our graduates will be out in all sorts of institutions ultimately that use data science, both in the private sector and in the public sector. Okay, and to say a bit more about the curriculum, I think one thing that I'd like to stress is that this really was a curriculum that was developed from scratch. So all these courses are specific to the Master of Data Science program. So we're not bringing students in to take existing courses alongside students in other programs. Our courses all come with a DSCI data science course code, and so you're in class with your peers in the MDS program, and that's it. As we said a moment ago, it's a real mix of stat and computer science and data science. I'll speak a bit to the statistics part of that because that's my home department. Really, I would say 7 of the 24 modules are the core applied statistics modules. There's a sequence of 3 that run through statistical inference. There's starting with an exploratory data analysis course, moving into 2 more formal statistical inference courses. There's a 2-module sequence in regression techniques, which are very central to statistics and data science. And then near the end of the program, there's a module on experimentation and causal inference, and another one on spatial temporal models. So that's where the statistics focus lies. Maybe I'll turn to Giuseppe to speak to the computer science.
Yeah, so for computer science, you should know, but if you don't know, I'm telling you, there is a prereq of programming, so you should know the basic concepts in programming, loop, conditionals, and functions. But we are going to build on that, first of all, learning about more complex algorithm design and data structure, especially focusing on efficiency and scalability, which are key in any application of computer science, especially in data science. And moving from that, you're going to learn about object-oriented programming to write more complex programs, also in collaboration with other programmers. And also, there is a course specific on databases, relational databases, where you can store a large amount of data. And another course that is very useful for data science is web and cloud computing, where you are going to learn how to use the web as a source of data, but also as a resource for computation, and also for presenting and distributing the results of data science. And I would say that at a certain point, statistics and computer science, they kind of get together into a set of 5 core courses in machine learning, starting from supervised machine learning 1 and 2, unsupervised machine learning, and advanced machine learning, and modeling and features. So that's how the 2 fields kind of come together. And there are also some courses that are specific for data science. And I can mention the fact that, for instance, you're going to be learning programming in R and Python. It's a very unique and useful feature of the program, because you're going to be bilingual, and you can kind of apply the same data science techniques and concepts in the 2 languages. Data wrangling is also important. You need to be able to take any data in any shape and transform it in a way that it's usable for the analysis that you need to perform. And data visualization is also, there are 2 courses in information visualization. Visualization, it's useful in data science in 2 ways. One is in allowing you to explore a large data set, but also in communicating the results. And that's an important feature of our program, that we focus on the ability of communicating the insights, the knowledge that is extracted from data to decision makers, stakeholders. And that's also why you see courses like communication, argumentation, part of our program. I don't know if Paul wants to.
I would just emphasize that the stuff on the near the bottom of the slide is really important to us. So you in our program, you will see a lot more data wrangling, I think, than you would if you were in a stat program or if you were in a CS program. You'll see a lot more visualization than a typical stat program or CS program. So that's stuff that's really an emphasis for us. And as Giuseppe said, these soft skills we actually take very seriously. Communications is a huge part of data science. You need to be able to tell stories back to decision makers based on what you've done with data. So we really emphasize that. We have a module there. And of course, things like privacy and ethics and security. I think in today's age, we think those things are super important for data science education.
And if I can add, it's also something that we are finding out in now initiating the capstone projects. Obviously the companies and the organizations that are working with our students, they are always rightly concerned about the privacy and security of the data.
And if you wanted to find more information about specific courses and who teaches them, on our website, on the courses page, you'll see a link out to all the courses that we offer, and with course descriptions, and also the instructors who teach the courses, so you can find out more information about that. So let's talk a little bit about career opportunities. So I think this is a very exciting field to be part of. It's a very fast-growing field. I'm sure you've heard about big data and data science and analytics. Those are kind of the buzzwords right now in the career fields. There is an expected talent gap of between 10,500 and 19,000 professionals in BC alone. So one of the things that we've noticed for our current cohort is that a lot of employers are actually calling me to get to meet. They want to meet our students and they want to recruit our students. So that's why a lot of industry professionals and employers come and talk to our students about opportunities with their companies and organizations. The other thing that I think is very exciting about this field is that there is opportunities for data scientists in almost all industries. So you can work in the public sector, in the private sector. Healthcare is a big field to be part of. Obviously technology, banking, finance, retail, almost every organization or and company, just like they need accountants, they also need data scientists. So you can kind of choose which industry you want to go into as a data scientist. So as I mentioned, the current cohort, we've already had more than 15 employer events and 2 career fairs, coming and speaking to our students in class, or students going out to career fairs and meeting with employers. We have 6 capstone projects that we have confirmed. They will start at the end of April. And so that's a really great way for students to gain industry experience, put those projects on your resume, and go out into the workforce with actual data science work experience. We are working right now, as we speak, on an industry advisory panel. So we're thinking of having maybe 4 or 5 people from industry to advise us on how we should go forward with the program, maybe what we should teach, where the jobs are, what they expect from graduates from the program. So that industry advisory panel is going to be a big part of our program in the near future. And we have dedicated staff to help students with their career preparation. So my background is actually in the career field, so I can help with that. But we've also hired people that have a lot of experience in career education to help students market themselves to the organizations and the industry. So whether it's resume writing, cover letters, networking, interview skills, and those kind of things. So I think career opportunities is actually one of the most exciting parts of this program. A little bit more about the application process. So there is a lot of information already on our website about admissions and the application process. I'll go through some things that maybe some frequently asked questions that we get in our inboxes and in our email inboxes. So as you know, the deadline is March 31st, 2017 to apply. We look at all aspects of your application. So there is not one particular thing that you should focus on. I think you have to kind of be a well-rounded applicant. So we look for whether you meet all the prerequisite courses that are listed on the website. So there's a programming course, a statistics course, and a math, calculus or algebra course that you have to have in order to apply for the program. So we look at whether you meet those prerequisites. We look at your grades. We look at your language and communication skills. We look at your resume, so your work experience, and then we also look at your letter of intent and the 3 references that you have to submit. And we score all those, I think there are 5 things, equally. So let's say if you are maybe a little bit weaker on your grades, you can make that up with your letter of intent or your references. So everything is kind of scored equally. Then we have a lot of applications already. We will do 3 or 4 rounds of offers starting from mid-March. So even though the deadline is March 31st, we have already started looking at applications, and we'll continue looking at applications all the way past the deadline, obviously, and start communicating with applicants that we want to make offers to in mid-March, and then probably every 2 to 3 weeks after that until we have connected with everyone that has applied. We are expecting for our second cohort to enroll 40 to 45 students, maybe a little bit more, but that's our goal for the coming cohort. One question that we get a lot is about financial aid. Basically, this is also listed on our website, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. For domestic students, which means Canadian citizens and permanent residents, you will be eligible to apply for government student loans. If you apply for government student loans and you get approved for government student loans, then we also have some money for bursaries. So you can apply for bursaries. So let's say you apply for, just making up a number, $10,000 for government student loans, and then the government says, I'll give you $7,000. You have an unmet need of $3,000, and so you can apply to our bursary program to kind of bridge the gap between your unmet need based on how much money we have left in our bursary. So if we get a lot of applicants to our bursary, you'll get less. If we don't get that many applicants to our bursary program, you might get a little bit more money. We are also working on an entrance scholarship for domestic students. At UBC, all scholarships have to go through an approval process through Senate. So we have submitted that already to Senate. So hopefully we'll have that ready for potential students in September. As for international students, so anybody who's not Canadian citizen or permanent resident, the only thing that that you will be eligible for is the scholarships that we are working on. Again, just like with domestic students, hopefully they'll be ready for September, but it's going to be an entry scholarship for international students specifically. To give you a little bit of a little bit more on how to apply and next steps and those kind of things. On our website, on the admissions page, there is a self-assessment test. We strongly encourage you to kind of look through it at least, and if you can, actually do the self-assessment test. The answers are also, there's a link to the answers. That's so you kind of can gauge for yourself whether you meet the prerequisites in order to apply for the program. Obviously, the self-assessment test is not, it's simpler than what we actually teach in the program. It's just a starting point, but we found that a lot of students, potential students, had questions about what's the level of statistics or calculus or algebra I need to know before I start the program, and the self-assessment test can kind of give you a little bit of insight into that. If you look at the self-assessment test and you're completely confused, then you probably need to take a little bit more statistics courses or calculus courses or algebra courses before you apply for the program. But if you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this in my undergrad, then you probably are good to go and you can apply.
Well, I would add that you should be able to complete all the exercises, and we provide a solution so you can actually check if you have problem to complete the exercises. It's very likely that you're going to struggle unless you prepare more before you join the program. So it's important that you actually do this.
Yeah. Do you want to take the second bullet, Paul?
I could do, yes.
Okay.
So another question we get fairly commonly is how our program sits in relation to other programs at UBC and in British Columbia more generally, and maybe even more broadly. So we do have a page on our site about how these things connect. So there are other options. There's a Master of Business Analytics through the Business School here on campus. There's a big data program at Simon Fraser University, the other university in Vancouver, and we try and give you some guidance about how these things, they overlap a tiny bit, but they're fairly distinct, and so we have some guidance out there to help you steer through that. And I think we're out of sync on our bullet items, but I'll do. How about I'll do the next one too?
Sure.
Yes. So another thing I'll emphasize is that this idea that on your application there really is an opportunity for you to tell us your story. It's not just about grades and reference letters. We take the CVs and the statement, letter of intent very seriously, and so we're looking for evidence that you've thought this through, you have an idea about how you're well suited to the program, you have an idea about what this program might achieve for you, where it might get you to. So we're looking for your story very much in that sense.
So something that we want to stress is the aspect of intensity and accelerated. So we mentioned lots of courses, and everything is going to happen in 8 months plus the capstone. So we really recommend that you are not engaged in any other part-time activity or job. It's a full-time program. And also, to deal with the workload, we recommend that you engage in collaboration, we foster collaboration with other students, and you are always promptly asking for help if you are having difficulties. So that's the way to manage the workload, because if you miss a deadline, there are lots of deadlines, it becomes a real problem. So also try to develop managing skills for managing deadlines. It's really important. But expect a lot of work, and the only way to deal with that is collaborating with other people, asking for help whenever you need it.
Yeah, and the next bullet is, we kind of touched on that already. So if you, for example, do the self-assessment test and you're struggling with it, or if you, this is a professional program, so we look for students that have work experience. So if you've been out of school for maybe a few years and you took your statistics and your math and your programming maybe 3, 4, 5 or years ago or longer, then it's probably a good idea for you to brush up on your statistics, math, and programming in the summer months, maybe before you start the program, just so you are, it's fresh in your mind, because like Giuseppe was saying, it is an intensive and accelerated program. So we don't, in the courses, we hit the ground running. So you probably don't have time to kind of go back and think about basic statistics or math before, while you're in the program. So think about taking a couple of months to brush up on your statistics, math, and programming in the summer months before the September start date.
And the last and very easy bullet point falls to me. So please do mull it over, and if you think MDS might be right for you, we very much welcome your application, but you've got to get it in by the end of this month, by the 31st. I think, is it time for questions?
So if you have any questions, I've been already getting some questions from you guys, which is great. Click on the little speech bubble on the right bottom of your screen and send us your questions. We do have another 45 minutes at least to answer all your questions. So what I'm going to do is I'll read the questions as they come in, and then we'll attempt to answer them as best as we can. If we run out of time, you can. At the end of the presentation, we'll have an email address. You can always email us your questions, and we get back to you very promptly with your questions as well through email. So the first question I have here is, I was wondering how 1-credit courses work. Usually 3-credit courses means 2 midterms and 1 final. Does that mean they will just have 1 exam?
That's a good question. So for the most part in the current year, we've been running the 1-credit course with 2 quizzes. So the credit is based mostly on lab work and 2 quizzes. We've experimented a bit with some modules having just 1 quiz. So they are, but we're not having sort of formal multi-hour exams. So the quizzes are relatively short, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, that sort of thing.
So yeah, the quizzes, they are testing mainly the conceptual understanding, and in the labs you are challenged with technical understanding, problem solving. Yeah. So the two, they complement each other.
And they're both great.
big test is the capstone project. At the end, you really need to show that everything is put together in a deep understanding of data science.
Okay, next question. I have 20 years experience in sales and marketing and looking for a career change. I am from the business side with a bachelor's in commerce and an executive MBA with no computer science background. I have no programming knowledge. Would it be the right course for me?
I would say no at this stage. You would need to take some formal education, formal preparation in programming, because we start assuming that the students are familiar with basic, as I said before, basic computer science programming concepts like loops, conditionals, and variables, and types of variables, and functions. So that's something that needs to be understood before starting.
All right, let me go. I wanted to know if the duration of the program is good enough for someone belonging to a non-computer science background, given the fact that a traditional master's is for approximately 2 years. Also, is there enough flexibility to venture into a different domain with respect to your previous one after attending the program? So career change, and whether it's...
Well, maybe I'll pick up on the second part of the question first. So we really are trying to be a broad data science program, and we've always thought it's going to work well if some of the students going through do go back to their home domains, but others absolutely will be looking for a career change. And really, we're not focusing this program on healthcare or IT or government or anything specific. It's data science in a very general sense, so that if you're really looking to make a change, this would be a way to do it. So that, do you want to add anything on the part of the question?
Well, the programming part, the computer science background, I mean, you don't need a computer science background in the sense of an undergraduate degree in computer science or electrical engineering. But as we say in the prereq, at least one undergraduate course in computer science programming. One way to check if you have the right background, I'm going to stress it again, is to work on the self-assessment test, which includes some questions about programming and computer science.
Yeah, and just to maybe add to that, we, in our current cohort, we have a lot of students that don't have a computer science background, and they're learning a lot, and they're getting the skills in order to go and work in the field of data science. So I don't think you need to have a computer science background, obviously, to be successful.
And also getting back to the issue about the 2-year versus the 1 year or 10 months, bear in mind, again, this is a professional program. There isn't a research component. There's no thesis to write. The capstone is relatively short at 2 months. So it's quite different than other research-based master's programs.
Okay. The next question, I would like to know how this program is different from the Master of Science in Business Analytics programs offered at UBC and other universities around the globe.
Well, maybe I'll start. I'm not sure I've got a super good answer for that, but I'll start by trying to emphasize that we have no particular focus on business. So again, we're data science in a very agnostic way of computer science and statistics tools that could be applied in any domain. So we don't have a focus on business intelligence or other things you might see in a business school type program.
Yeah, I would encourage you to go to the What is Data Science page on our website. So there is a little figure there that kind of explains what the differences are between big data, data science, and business analytics. I see it as like a kind of horizontal line with big data being on the left, where the computer science people kind of manipulate the big data and do the programming and the algorithms and those kind of things. So that's a very technical field. Data science kind of being in the middle. So once the big data people are kind of done with their programming and their algorithms, they kind of pass those tools to the data scientists who kind of manipulate the data and maybe come up with some solutions and pass it on to the business analysts who kind of decide which direction the company or the organization should go. So that's how I see the differences between big data, data science, and business analytics.
And I might just throw in, again, I'm not really that well versed in what is in business analytics type programs, but I think you might see there things like operations research, which we don't touch on at all.
Yeah, and I would say also that the questions that they try to answer, they are very much business specific, while in data science you can have questions that are not so directly connected with monetarization and financial implication.
The next question, I think we can answer this one really quickly. Is the knowledge of one programming language absolutely necessary for admission?
Yeah, because at least in order to understand the basic concepts of programming, you must have learned them in a programming language. So it's a little bit generic to what it means to know a programming language. You don't need to know the full scope of possibilities and functionalities of a programming language, but you need to know a programming language to the extent that you can apply in an effective way the basic computer science concepts, as I was saying, basic data structures, arrays, variables of different types, iteration loops and conditionals, Boolean variables and functions, the composition of functions.
And I might just add that if you've got a lot of experience in a different language and are coming into MDS, you might want to just have a brush up on R and or Python during the summer. That might help.
I'm getting a couple of questions about people losing internet connection or the webinar connection. So we will have a recording of this session, and it'll be available on our website, and we can also email you the link. So if you missed part of the webinar, don't worry, we'll have a recording available for you. Another question, how different is the Master of Data Science at UBC from the Masters in Big Data at SFU, curriculum-wise?
Okay, so the main differences, I can start with two. One is that the Master in Big Data at SFU has a much stronger prereq for the computer science part, for the technical part. So they require an undergraduate degree in computer science or engineering. The other big difference is that most of their program is reusing existing courses from the computer science curriculum, while we have designed these micro courses, modules, from scratch to make sure that the right content for data science is conveyed in the short time. So these are the two main differences, like different prereqs and different structure of the courses.
I might also throw in that I think for our program, for MDS, we have a real focus on understanding and applying appropriate tools in appropriate situations, whether the data are small or large. And scalability is important, but it's not our only emphasis, whereas, of course, by nature, a big data program has a lot of emphasis on how things scale up to massive amounts of data.
And from what I understand, the SFU program also has the MDS, our program has 30% statistics, whereas the SFU program is, I think, 80-85% computer science.
Yep.
So it's much more technical.
As Milad was mentioning, in this data science chain, you can think of the SFU program as the starting point of the chain, and the MDS, our program, to be in the middle, where you kind of have already some pre-analysis of the data, and it's you need to make the connection between that and answering questions and getting insights from the data, producing new knowledge. So there is not much focus in our program on the, I would say, low-level phases of data science.
Next question. I think this is a quick one as well. Does GRE score is GRE score considered for admissions?
We don't require it. I think you have the opportunity to provide it if you wish. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can upload it, but it's not a. You don't need
I mean, if you do provide it, we would use it. I mean, we try and take a fairly holistic view of these applications, and we will try and evaluate a candidate on the basis of all the information that's provided. So if you provide it, it will get factored in, but you don't need to.
Yeah. The next question. Any mandatory prerequisite courses for admissions? And I think for that one, if you go on our website, there is 3 mandatory prerequisite courses listed on the admissions page of our website, and there's examples of course numbers even at UBC, so you can Google those courses and see what is taught in those courses, and you need to have an equivalent of those courses. You need to have taken an equivalent of those courses in order to get admitted to the program. You can do those courses over the summer, so even though the deadline is March 31st, if you on your application indicate to us what courses you've registered in the summer, we can give you a conditional offer based on you finishing those courses before you start the program.
And maybe to add to that, we say 3 courses. One is programming and stats, probability and stats, and then we say either calculus or linear algebra, but we really, in bold, we recommend that it's better to have both. So it's the strongest possible application as both calculus and linear algebra. And again, the level can be assessed with the self-assessment test.
What is the expected class size for the 2017 cohort? We talked about that.
Had a slide, right? 40 to 45.
Yeah. On the website, it mentions that this degree does not require students to have an existing computer science degree. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, it gets back to the prerequisite courses. You need at least 1 course in computer science, but you don't need a degree in computer science.
And the course in computer science should be, because there is some ambiguity, we have been looking at application, we started looking at application. It has to be a course where you are taught programming concepts, not just an introduction to maybe information technology, where you look at very high-level aspects of computer science and information technology, or maybe a little bit of programming in Excel. That's not enough. We really recommend, actually we require as a prereq the knowledge of a programming language and some basic computer science programming concepts.
Okay, here's another kind of technical question. I was wondering about the April 7th deadline listed for submitting references on the online application at UBC. So the deadline to submit your application is March 31st, but your referees, so your references, have 1 extra week to submit their references to the site. So you need to submit your application by March 31st, but we'll give you 1 extra week for your references to submit their letters to the site, to upload their letters to the application system. So that's why you there's two different dates: March 31st for the application deadline, April 7th for the references deadline.
So one on this issue, one suggestion is make sure that the people you ask reference from, they are aware of the deadline and remind them of the deadline multiple times.
That's a good piece of advice.
That's my experience also with students. Sometimes I say yes, and then I kind of forget. And the good students, they send you like a schedule and what references they need and where.
And
so
when. Yeah.
Make sure you are proactive in that.
Okay. What faculty is this degree in? And upon graduation, do students receive an MSc or MStat?
Well, so the program sits entirely within the Faculty of Science, cooperation between these two departments, computer science and statistics. The actual degree it actually says Master of Data Science, so it's a newly created degree category on this campus.
Yeah, and it's a professional master, so
It's
not equivalent to a
No.
master in computer science, not
No.
to a master in stats, but it might have more career opportunities than the other two at this point.
Next question. Can you please talk about the existing or planned capstone projects? How deep do these projects get? And do we have the option to work on a startup project of our own?
Well, let me start with the second part first, because that's the easier part. So that answer is no. So we are making the connections to capstone mentors. We are vetting the projects in advance. In terms of what we've got this year, it's a real mix. I think we have, of the 6 capstone projects currently, 2 are with private sector companies, one IT company, one mineral exploration company. The 2 are more tied in with academic research, and then the other 2 are in the public sector. So we have one to do with real-time data on the transit system here in Vancouver, and how that can be how that data can be exploited to make the transit system better. And we have one on with the BC. I won't get the name right, but the BC Statistics Agency, having to do with listen. Also won't get this right either, but there's a natural language processing type.
Yeah, I think survey
element.
data.
Yeah.
So it's a
Free-form text answers
free-form
on
text
yeah.
and structured information. So there is that challenge of analyzing both and extracting knowledge and insights from structured and unstructured information. And the one from the private sector is about applying topic modeling and unsupervised learning technique to extract information from conversational data. So question answering system for like customer support or for developers that are developing software or other artifacts, and they discuss. So the ability to extract this information, these topics, and also interpreting the topics. There is a capstone also from the mining domain. Oh, you mentioned that. Okay, from the mining domain, and that's focuses on spatial information, because they have to reason about location of possible mines, and so these are the capstone.
Yeah, for this year. So for next year, with a bigger cohort, obviously we'll have more capstone projects available. So we're working on that as well, right as we speak, for next year already. Next question. My programming knowledge is statistic program specific, eViews, SAS, etc., and some very basic MySQL. Any recommendation for me to brush up on my programming chops?
Well, I would just say that if you've got a lot of SaaS experience, then you want to kind of leverage that and gain some R experience. And I don't think that's a terribly big leap to make necessarily. But we won't be using SAS at all in MDS. It's on the stat side, it's all R, and then Python on the computer science side.
But I would say if that's the easier step, going from SAS to
I think
R,
that would be the easy step.
that
I think
if you have a basic understanding of the programming concepts in R, that's okay. You can learn Python in.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. I think if you have a foot in the door with either R or Python, then moving to the other one is pretty manageable.
Yeah.
Next question. I'm a fourth-year business student. I don't have a ton of work experience, but I'll have 3 co-op work terms under my belt by the time I graduate. Is it possible to be to have a competitive applicant? Oh, to be a competitive applicant with this level of work experience?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And just to be clear, so in our current cohort, it's a real mix. We have some students who've come straight out of bachelor programs, and maybe their work experience is just co-op or something like that. We've got other students who were in the workforce for several or many years, so it's a real mix.
Are MDS students eligible for on-campus student housing? Yes. Student housing is hard to come by, but I mean, there's a lot of applications for student housing, but yes, you will be eligible for on-campus student housing. 2 questions. Do we have classes on the weekend?
No.
No. It's intensive, but not that intensive.
So
you have homeworks on weekends, maybe.
So to maybe expand on that, you'll be in class Monday through Thursday. So you have lectures in the morning. So you either start at 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. in the morning, and then you'll have an hour lunch or an hour and a half lunch, depending if you start at 9 a.m. or 9:30. And then you'll have labs in the afternoons from 2 to 4. Again, from Monday to Thursday. So you won't have to come to class on Friday, but that's probably on Fridays is where you do a lot of the homework and the assignments and the studying and the meeting with your classmates for projects. So on Fridays and the weekends. And then the second question is, do we get a break between semesters? So yes, you'll get a Christmas break. You'll also get, in February, you'll get a week off for reading break. Those are the 2 major breaks that you will have in those 10 months.
And then a few days between blocks.
Yeah, so every time a block switches over, you'll have 1 or 2 days in between as well.
So when we also, maybe to be precise about the lab idea, so you get a lab, the lab is an assignment that you can start in a physical lab where there are TAs, and they're going to help you to start with working on what we call the lab, which is an assignment, and then you have to continue working on it at home. So in these labs 2 to 4, you're going to be working on these assignments with the other students and TAs that can answer any question, that can help you, and then you continue at home or whatever you want.
And on top of the just regular lectures and labs, we talked about this a little bit already, but you'll have employer information sessions at lunchtime or in the evenings. You'll have career workshops like resume writing, interview skills, cover letters, also at lunchtimes or in the evening. So there's a lot of extracurriculars that you can expect as well. Next question. Is there a possibility of the program being offered part-time in the next few years?
No.
No.
not. I mean, maybe down the road, but that's not on our radar right now.
I'm a Bachelor of Technology and Computer Science from India with 10 years of industry experience in the data warehousing domain across different industries. If I do take this program and get interested in further studying or research, would this course be a good foundation for such a program?
for moving from the, if I understood the question correctly, moving from NDS to research?
I think that's the question. That's the question, yeah. So maybe PhD or something like that.
Well, why not? But it's not a straight line from NDS to a PhD. But I wouldn't be surprised if in like 3, 4, 5 years there will be PhDs in data science. Or
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So, I mean, because we have no graduates yet, because our first cohort is still studying, we don't really know if that's how viable a path that is. It's not, again, because it's a professional master's and not a research master's, it wouldn't be a traditional route into a PhD program. But at the same time, I can imagine a lot of PhD programs would find applicants with the MDS training to be valuable. So I kind of think there's probably a path there.
Okay. I think we've answered this question already, but just to maybe stress again, what statistical software do we use? Is it just R, or will we learn to use a variety of programs?
Really just R, but of course you need a lot of packages. So in addition to kind of coding in R, you'll be using all sorts of packages that live in the R world and all sorts of packages that live in the Python world. And there may be other other software things that pop up from time to time.
Yeah, for instance, now I was thinking of information visualizations. Yeah. There are lots of packages that are built on JavaScript, but you can kind of use them within Python or R. So you're going to learn how to also leverage packages in other languages. It's not that if you only know R and Python, you cannot use anything written in JavaScript or D3 for information visualization. But you're not going to learn in MDS, you're not going to learn how to develop complex programs in JavaScript, for instance. But you can still use lots of packages and libraries and learn how to do it. Especially also in the, for instance, in the web and cloud computing course. And in InfoVis, as I was saying, there are other packages like Tableau that you might want to learn how to use, and maybe you're going to use it in your capstone, but it's not going to be covered in a specific course.
Okay. So here's a question about somebody who has taken MOOCs, about 10 courses in data science specializations through Coursera, data mining, data wrangling, and Udacity. She already has a master's in mechanical engineering from UBC. Do you think that given that I already took some of these courses and I'm able to apply the basics, that I would fully benefit from taking a formal master's degree at UBC? My main objective is to get a job as a data scientist.
That's a hard question to answer.
So the master is in electrical engineering?
Master's in, oops, let me find this one. Master's in mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering. Hard to tell.
It's hard to tell, yeah.
Well, first, the self-assessment, try the self-assessment. If it just, you breeze through it, probably you will. So that's also not very useful. It's hard to tell these courses, online courses in data science, if you feel you understood the material, and I would maybe go to our webpage and compare the content of those courses with the content of our courses and kind of estimate the amount of overlap. I think if you're left with 60-75% that you didn't cover, then MDS it's probably a good choice because it allows you to expand your knowledge of data science and then get a formal qualification. But if the overlap is 80%, then probably it's not worth.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Yeah.
From a career perspective, I think it's all about marketing yourself. So if you think that if you put on your resume that you have a master's degree, that you will be able to apply for better jobs, higher level jobs, it might be worth it, rather than just having courses, that you've taken. So how do you want to market yourself? Where do you want to market yourself? So you might want to take that into consideration as well. So how do you want to sell yourself? That would be my tip.
Yeah, because our goal is that if you join the program, you're going to learn something that is going to be useful and you're going to enjoy it. So just starting our program to get a stamp of it is not really something we aim for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you want to make sure that there's enough stuff you're going to learn to keep you engaged. Yeah.
So here's a question about somebody who's not a Canadian citizen, and so she's worried about getting a formal 3-credit course in algebra if she can't do that. Is there any other solution to this problem if I want to apply for this program?
Well, if I'm hearing the question right, so the actual formal requirement is a course in calculus or a course in linear algebra. So if you have the calculus already, you don't absolutely need the linear algebra. We recommend it. But in particular, there may be an opportunity to do a MOOC there that if you formally meet the prerequisites, but you're worried that you don't have linear algebra training, there would be MOOCs out there, and that might be a way of strengthening both your application, but also your ability to thrive when you get here.
Yeah, I think that would be the best course of action too.
So the next question is about if there is a way the program could place students in internships or co-ops.
So that's not a possibility. The internship co-op is the capstone project, which is 2 months, and it's again intensive and accelerated. And that's the one of the ways in which you're going to be connected with companies and industry, and obviously through the capstone you have a strong connection that might actually lead to employment. But there is no co-op possibility.
Are there recruiting events and ways to connect to industry? How much interest has there been from companies regarding this type of interaction with the program? So I think I can speak to that, and we've already talked about it a little bit. So there's been a lot of interest from industry. We have myself, and also within the computer science department, people that their job is to connect with industry. So we've already had a lot of employers that have come and talked to our students at lunchtime events or evening events. So there's been a lot of interest from industry in meeting with our students.
To this week, for instance.
To this week, yeah. Is this master's program valid only in Canada? No. Is there any certification like SAS recognition which students may receive at the end of the program?
Not through MDS. I think students can pursue certifications on their own. But yeah. And I think MDS would give you a lot of skills that would help you get those credentials, but we don't facilitate that.
Would international students be given opportunity to work on campus during the program course?
Work on campus is a part-time job? Or?
Yeah. So,
yeah, no, as we said before, it's really intensive and accelerated. So it's a full-time
thing for 10 months.
For 10 months.
What level of knowledge is required for Python and R? None, basic, intermediate, or advanced?
I would say basic.
Basic.
Yeah. basic. And I mentioned before the kind of what we mean by basic.
There's another question.
Like for instance, while we wait for it, we can elaborate the like dealing with more complex data structures like trees and graphs. It's covered by a specific module, algorithms, and also complexity, understanding complexity of algorithms, something that we cover.
Okay, next question. For the prerequisite courses, can I take them at any school? For example, BCIT, Langara, Douglas?
I think the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
make sure that you get good grades.
Yeah. Yes. Good point.
Taking a course is one thing.
Okay, then I used to work as a consultant in the energy data business and hold an MBA degree. I find this program fits me very well. My question is, for someone like me who does not have computer science or statistics background or professional experience, but someone who has the motivation and the ability to be dealing with data, how are my chances to get admitted?
Well, again, it comes down, a big part of it comes down to the prereqs. I mean, you need those prereq courses in one form or another. Beyond that, again, we take quite a holistic view of these applications. So if a student's STAT and CS program is just at the prereq level, but there's all sorts of relevant experience, then that scores the application up for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Really quick technical question. Do the reference letters have to be submitted online, or can they be mailed to your location? We prefer if your references upload them to the online system. So as soon as you enter a reference name and email address, your reference will get an email instructing them on how to upload their letter to the online system. If for some reason they can't do it or there's some technical issue, you can also mail them to our office, and the address would be also on our website. But we prefer them to be uploaded to the online system. Could you give some examples of career paths of recent graduates of the program?
So just to be clear, we don't have any graduates yet. So the first cohort started this past September, and they're still in courses. They'll be doing their capstone in the coming May and June. So if you check back with us in July, we'll have some information on what kind of jobs they move on to.
I'm not sure if I understand this question, but what is the learning methodology in the program?
Oh, so if I'm interpreting the question, I think it's about lecture format and that sort of thing. So it's the morning lectures are relatively traditional lecture style for the most part. I guess we're starting to think about dabbling a little bit in sort of active learning techniques, but that's still just a little bit. And then the labs in the afternoon are designed to be collaborative and done in groups and brainstorming and that sort of thing.
Yeah, in the lectures also, for the courses, there are like more hands-on with programming. We do some live programming and running code. There is also, as we mentioned, like there are TAs that they come from both stats and computer science, so they are available for like questions, interactions, and also, as we were saying, to foster like collaboration between students in the labs.
When you're working as a data scientist, what is the percentage of time you spend on a computer?
Good question.
That's a good question.
I would say between 50% and 70% on a computer that including like iPads or tablets, or because you can go somewhere and collect data, or but that's my, I mean, I don't think anybody, that would be a good data science project. Right. I don't think anyone has collected the data, but that's...
The one thing I might add, I mean, I don't really know an answer either, but thinking about statisticians, that's what I am, and it's sort of fairly similar to data science. It's a little less time sitting at a computer than people might guess. There's everything these days is teamwork and communicating. So more more talking and writing and brainstorming than you might guess. It's not just sitting down and crunching numbers.
Yeah, maybe also I wanted to add, sitting at a computer is not always, doesn't mean that you're crunching numbers or you're programming or you're running some machine learning, but it's also an important part of storytelling and explaining the result, interpreting with domain experts, and that's, you can think it's not more creative, but it's a different kind of creativity that you have to leverage in designing a particular information visualization, a particular presentation, and highlighting some points and engaging with non-technical people. I think that's something that it's a plus for a data scientist compared to maybe a more traditional, in my field, like computer scientist, that might spend most of the time developing software.
The minimum programming experience is only a single course in programming, but what was the actual programming experience that the students in the current cohort had when they applied?
I think some of our accepted students had just one course in programming. Others had more, and frankly, the ones who had more probably found things a little bit easier at the start. But we have students who are going to successfully get through this program having just the one computer science course beforehand. I think I'm correct in saying that.
Yeah.
Again, about R and Python, is there any tool we should be aware of that we will be working with? Is there a certain database software we will be working with?
So the database that is taught is SQL and MySQL. You can, but again, a data scientist should be able to kind of move swiftly from one tool to another once the concepts are understood.
I think that's actually a very good point. It came to my mind later in thinking of one of the earlier questions. It's not so much that we are trying to train people up to be experts in this piece of software, and this piece of software, and this piece of software. We're training people up on the concept side so that you can learn these tools very naturally and easily. So it's not training in specific software. It's a more foundational training, I would say. Would you tend to agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the salary range for data scientists here in Vancouver?
I'm not sure I know.
It's a quite a newer field, so I'm not aware of any Canadian salary surveys that have been done. I know of some U.S. salary surveys that have been done, and on our Facebook page, actually, I've uploaded a salary survey that you can download and kind of look at for data scientists. So that's my answer. It's hard to say. It depends on how much experience you have already. If you're new to the field, if you have been in the workforce for a longer period of time, if you're applying for a junior position or a senior position, if you're applying for within a public organization or a private organization. So it's a very tough question to answer, but I would say that it's definitely above average for Vancouver.
I'll try and throw out one number that's maybe sort of related. So again, my own experience is more on the statistics side than the data science side. In our Masters in Statistics program, I think students coming out from there with just fresh out of school, no prior work experience, might be looking at salaries in the 70 to 80K range. But how that relates to data science exactly, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, for computer science, it's probably similar or maybe a little bit higher for just someone coming out with no experience. Yeah. But we are going to have data on that in a few months.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
For very specific, like graduates of our program, there is definitely lots of demand from companies. Even something maybe we didn't stress in Vancouver, the high-tech like ecosystem is growing, and it's growing also because many other like companies from other sectors, they need support from IT companies and people that they understand data and they can analyze data, produce insights. So these are data scientists. So there is a whole movement of growing demand for this kind of professions, and that's obviously has an effect on the salaries.
Yeah, and Vancouver is getting the name Silicon Valley North, so it is definitely a very growing and thriving tech industry happening in Vancouver right now. Is group work required for all the modules and capstone projects, or can we complete them individually?
For capstone, it's required. The capstone projects are inherently group projects. I would say for the modules in the actual courses in the labs, we really encourage group work. I don't think it's a very sustainable way to get through our program, is trying to do everything by yourself, basically. Yeah. And also that reflects the workplace, right? So out there in the data science world, connecting and with your peers and making sure that you can share code effectively and so on is super important. We even have a module on collaborative software development, so teamwork is pretty important.
Yeah, as we also mentioned at the beginning, the diversity of the cohort, that is going to be the first cohort, but also the second one, and there's going to be diversity, and that's where your collaboration is essential. I mean, you learn from each other. Some students have more programming experience, some students have more stats experience, some students have more domain experience, or more like a work experience, and so it's critical. I mean, it's not required, but you're going to benefit a lot from collaboration, and it's a skill that will be critical in the workplace as a data scientist.
So there's a question here about somebody who actually has a lot of experience. So Masters of Industrial Engineering, worked 11 years in supply chain domains as internal consultant, on several network optimization packages, Excel-based modeling, forecasting models in R and Shiny R. So they're wondering if, with that amount of experience, if this program is still suitable for them.
My gut reaction is I'm getting hints of overqualification there. So I mean, so for instance, one thing we try and teach our students by the end of the program is how to build Shiny apps in R. So if you're doing that already, you may find some of our stuff redundant. But basically, you've got to look through our course list, and just like Giuseppe said with an earlier question, you need to make an assessment of how much overlap and how much new stuff. And I don't really think it's in anyone's best interest to be taking the program if there's a lot of overlap with what you know already.
I'm also getting a lot of questions that are very specific to individuals. Questions about international eligibility criteria and working and those kind of things. So the next slide will be, we'll have an email address there. So if you wanted to connect with us and speak and ask questions about your individual kind of specific issues, we will be happy to respond to those in an email. Can you give us an idea of what the acceptance rate looks like?
Well, I think we can share last year's acceptance
Yeah,
rate.
so I didn't, I was talking about the first cohort. I said from a larger pool, the acceptance rate was 20-25% last year, but this year we see a surge in applications. So if we keep our target around 45 plus, it might be even lower than 25%.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly
But
lower.
of course, because we're still open till March 31st, we don't know how many applications we will end up with.
Yeah.
And this is the last question, actually, so it's perfect timing. What is your best strategy for someone trying to learn the basics of R and Python?
Well, I think with both R and Python, there are quite a lot of MOOCs out there. I can't remember, this is embarrassing now in a live setting. We talked about putting some information up about ones we might recommend. Did we get to that yet?
So what we want
we
to
have.
do is once you get an offer from us, we can give you some tips on MOOCs that you can take over the summer, whether it's in statistics or programming or calculus or algebra, so you can kind of prepare and hit the ground running for a September start date. So we're working
on
in
that.
touch. We'll be in touch with those people who are interested. Okay, so if you have any questions, that might be a little bit hard to read the email address, but it's info-mds@science.ubc.ca. So again, info-mds@science.ubc.ca. You can call us, you can call our program assistant or myself at 604-822-6911. We have a Facebook page that is listed there. If you have any questions, you want to use our Facebook page, and we will respond to those as well. And like I said, there's a lot of questions that are a little bit more specific to the individual that we received, so you can ask those questions and we'll respond to those. It is 10:29 on my watch, so we would really like to thank you for attending this webinar, and look forward to your application by March 31st.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your interest.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Hope to see some of you live in September.
Thank you.
Thanks.